Hello there, I'm Srafanse, and in this quick tutorial I will show you how to create cookie clicker from scratch in Unreal Engine. It has all that you need, it has cookies and clicking, so you just click and it will add something. I also added automatization, so if you have enough cookies you can buy something and it will automatically add to it. And of course there are different tiers. I added only Oven and Granny, but I will of course show you how to add everything that you just want. Alright, let's get started. Let's create new project. You can use whatever version of Unreal Engine you want. And we are going to create a game, and let's leave it as just as a blank project. So click on next, and let's call it just cookie or something that suits you. We will leave it in blueprints. Let's switch it to scalable 3D and 2D and aim it at mobile or tablet. And that's fine. Create project. So the first thing we will do is to do something with play, because right now if you click on play, it will just play in here, but we want to test it on mobile. So we will click on mobile preview, but before that you of course need to save your level. So let's save it as main level, and right here in the background we already have this thing. So you can see that we have here some pawn and something that we can use. First of all, I want to switch this mode because I want to see it in portrait mode. I don't want to have it like this. Go into edit and editor preferences. And right here we should find the play. And you have to click on this little icon that will switch between portrait and landscape. So we want to switch it into portrait, which is this thing. And now if you click on that, you can see that we are in portrait mode. That's pretty cool. Alright, let's close that again. And let's get rid of these controllers. They will go into project setting this time for real. And in edit, project setting, and let's find here input, and you can see that we have here our mobile and default touch interface. So let's disable that, clear it, and that should get rid of it. And one more thing we need to do for testing is again in project setting, in search bar, let's put here touch, and we will have to enable use mouse for touch. That will enable us to click on widgets, etc, because we will build this whole game just with widgets. Alright, now we will have to create our player and also our game mode, and for that we will also need here a window, that's world settings. So let's click on Windows and find here a world setting right here, and you can see that we don't have any game mode right here. So let's right click and create here a blueprint and find here game mode. Let's call it just main game mode. These are pretty stupid names, but because this is a really simple game I can afford to do something like that and put our game mode right here. Alright, and now let's also create here a player. So blueprint and find here our pawn. So click on that and call it main player. And of course move it again here and set it as our default pawn class. And one more thing that we need to create is some sort of interface that you will work with. So let's again right click, create the user interface and widget blueprint, and let's call it main widget. Everything is main here today, I know. So if you open that, it will be by default in landscape mode, so you have to click on this portrait again, and just to make sure that we know it's actually in the game, let's put here some text and just test it with main widget or something like that. Make it a bit bigger so we are sure to see that, blah blah blah. And let's put it in the center, so scroll up, anchor point, center. Exactly that. Now we have to add it to your game. So if you click on main player, let's go for event graph and we will create here widget. So after event begin play, let's create widget and we want to add it to the game. So add to viewport. Wonderful. And let's switch it to main widget, of course. So now if I click on play, we should have saved everything. So make sure that everything is saved, so save all. You don't want to lose all the progress. And now click on play, and you can see that we have here our main widget. That's good, that's exactly what we wanted. And now let's save some performance. So what we can do now is basically delete completely and absolutely everything there is, because now if you click on play, only thing here is player start, and you don't even need that, to be honest. But let's not leave it there, because widgets are unlit, so you can see them even without light. And look at that. So now back in main widget, we will put here something in the background. So you can put there something like an image or anything like that. So let's find here image, and I don't have an image that I would put there, but you can just put it in the background and change its color a bit. So Let's in anchor switch it to this last thing and set everything to zeros. That should cover everything. Oh no, this thing to zeros. And make sure that the order is on something lower than everything else. So let's do like -1 for now. We still can see our text, but that's just because it has the same color. So in our image, let's switch color to, in our brush, let's set tint to something shadowy. Oh, you know what, let's do pink. On this channel we always choose pink. Let's be real here, guys. And let's use this main widget as our title of the game. So call it cookie the game. Right, switch it up. We will put it on the upper anchor and put it somewhere here. Alright, and now let's put here some sort of score. So we'll put here another text. Let's put here text right here and make it a bit bigger. Let's do about 13. And I would again use upper anchor point right here, and let's call it, let this be just a score. So bind it, right click on binding, create binding, and what we will want to do is to create here a new variable right here. So variable, and let's call it cookies, and we will use no, we actually don't, we can't use integer, we will have to use float, and by default it's set to 0 of course, and connect it right here, get it and connect. Alright, so our score is here set to cookies, and just to test it, let's put here zeros, blah blah blah, make it probably even bigger. Let's do 50. And you can of course import here your own font. There are some fonts, but you can import your own and set it however you want. Alright, and now let's add here a cookie, something that you can actually click on. So we'll use just a button. Let's put it here for now. Put it on center, and we have here on clicked event. So let's click on that, add it. Let's take your cookie and put it as increment, which means you will have to put here ++. Increment float means it will add 1 to it. So it's the same thing as if I would do float plus float and leave it like that. These two things are completely the same, but increment is just a quick way how to do stuff. Alright, let's see if that works. Alright, we have our game, mouse is fine. And if I click on that, look at that, it's adding cookies. Congratulations guys, we got a cookie clicker. Okay, alright, I have here a cookie that I imported as a picture, but you can put here anything you want. This is just something I downloaded from Canva. You can find whatever cookie you want. Alright, click on style, and as our normal, let's put here exactly our picture and put it right here. And you can see it's deformed a bit because we have to set it to same image size as it is here. So if you click on that, it's 588 and 582. So okay, that worked. So margin, what's the problem? Yeah, margin was messed up for some reason, and scale here is a problem. Look at that size. You can switch it back to default, blah blah blah, and set that size to same thing as you have your image size, or at least it needs to be the same ratios. Right here you can see that the ratio is almost 1:1. That 1 pixel doesn't really matter, so let's set it to 350 times 350. Alright, and one more thing you have to do is to set here your image after it is pressed. So what we will do here is to set our cookie to all of these. So cookie here and cookie on the last one. Usually you would have 3 different pictures that at least show the player somehow that something is changing. But we will simply go around that. In hover, we will change the tilt slightly. Let's just put it a bit lower, so it will darken itself a bit. And with pressed, let's do the same thing, but much more. And in a moment, I will also show you how to add a quick animation. So you always have to show players some sort of feedback. These are actually pretty important things in game design. You have to show the player some sort of feedback. If he does some action, you have to show him feedback and see that something is happening. So right here, if I go around that, and I have to edit that margin, but the thing is that it works. It actually doesn't look that bad. So quickly, main widget, let's edit here margin. We don't want that at all. So let me show you how you can add here that bit of animation. So we want something really quick with that animation because player will be clicking at that really fast. So let's add here animation, call it after click, which actually sounds like a pretty good name for a movie now that I'm thinking about it. Right here, switch on timeline, and what we want to do is to add here a track, and we will work with our button 0, and that track will be, let's do transform. On 0 you want to add here a keyframe, so click on this little plus on X and Y, then on 0 10 let's put here scale to 1.2 and 1.2. You can see it's automatically mapping them, and if you play it quickly, you can see that it's scaling up. That's cool. So let's go into 0.15 and scale it back on 1. And look at that. That looks pretty cool. I'm just pressing spacebar to play it, by the way. I'm afraid that it's still a bit too slow, actually, because as I said, player will be clicking really fast. But we will test that in a moment. So what we will do is to go into graph, and we don't want to be in function, we want to be in an event graph. And after on clicked, what you want to do here is put here your animation. You have to click on this little arrow, animations, have here after click, get it, and click on play. So we want to play that animation. Alright, if I click on that, you can see that it's playing that animation. It's changing and playing that animation. It may be a good idea, now that I'm looking at it, to not actually change that tint, because I don't think it's looking that good if it's scaling and also at the same time changing its color. So maybe I would change that color, but just a tiny bit. So let's delete that, main widget, blah blah blah. And for our hovered, I'm not going to change tint at all. And for pressed, let's change it, but just a tiny bit, just a little bit, just to show that something is happening, but not too much. You can see that it's pretty good. I kind of like how it looks like. Alright, let's add here some automatization, so it will automatically upgrade something. So for that we will need another button. Let's put it just here, scale it up a bit. Let's set anchor point, blah blah blah, over here, and let's put text inside it. If you put the text right on that, it will automatically attach itself to it. Let's go with oven, so something you can cook your cookies in. And we will also add here a price for that. So let's put here text, and then let's add here another text, because you want to have it as price, because one text will be price. Let's put it as price, and the other text will be that actual price, and we will set it in a moment, because we will use variable for that, so it will dynamically improve once you will edit that in the code of the game. So in event graph we will use event tick. Event tick happens several times of the game, but that's not what we want. We will create here a little trick. We'll put here a short delay, and the delay will be exactly 1 second, which means that this thing will fire every 1 second. And what you want to do here is to set our score, our cookies. Let's set it, and you want to set it to current cookies, so get cookies plus float, and that plus thing, let's promote variables. So let's set it to auto cooker. Not sure if cooker has anything to do with cookies, but let's do that. And by default, autocooker is on 1, which we don't want. We want autocooker to be on 0. But after you click on oven, on clicked, you want to first of all figure out if you have enough money. So we will put here a branch, and for that let's use cookies, and you want to make sure that cookies are bigger or equal to some amount that you choose. So let's put here variable, let's call it oven price, and by default let's set it to compile, let's set it to 20, and let's connect it here. And if that's true, that means you have enough, you have more cookies than 20 here. It will take your auto cooker and set it to auto cooker plus float, and let's do 0.5. So if you buy it 2 times, it will add 1 cookie per second. And now we can take the text and bind it and switch it to our oven price. And by default, let's set it to, I don't know, 0, 0, just so we can properly see that. Alright, let's test if everything works as it should. Click on play, blah blah blah, and you can see that nothing is happening. If I click on oven, nothing is also happening. But if I click on cookie 20 times, I should have enough. 21. I bought it, and now you can see that it's slowly adding cookies. 0.5 cookies per second, and I can buy it again. And it's just adding to it, adding to it, adding to it. Wonderful, guys. All right, let's add here few cosmetic stuff, because what I forgot to do is after it happens, you also want to subtract those cookies. And to set it, let's take our cookies here. You want to set it here, and you want to take oven. I actually want to copy both of them. So you want to take cookies and oven price, and from cookies you want to subtract price of oven. And what you can also do is to increase the price of that oven. So last thing you will do here is to set oven price and take it to oven price plus, let's do 5. So every time you buy that upgrade, it will add 5 to its price. 5 more cookies you have to pay. Santa's not gonna be happy about that. Well, what do I know? We don't have Santa in our country. And you will be able to see that all that is upgrading in real time. And let's add here few more stuff. Let's increase size of this thing to 75 and add here another text. Let's add here text and set it and bind it to your auto cooker, because by default I'll set it to 0, 0, 0 just to see it. Let's add another text next to it and call it per second. So I will have to create about 20 cookies, blah, 21, and you can set it subtracted something from it. It's making 0.5 cookies per second, blah blah blah. Let's add a few more of them. Now I have 27. Let's buy it again, and it costs 30. Let's also add here, let's say grandma or something like that makes cookies, so it's completely the same thing. So we will add here a button. You know what, let's make sure that it's the same one. So we will just copy it. So click on this button, duplicate it. Let's move it somewhere here. That's fine. And set it to center. You can copy Y position, so you make sure that it's on the same thing. Let's rename it to Granny or something like that, up to you. And again, we will have to do the same thing. Let's add here text. Now, let's copy just price from here. Again, one more text. And this thing, we will have to create variable for that. So create here a binding. And you want to duplicate oven price and call it granny price. Isn't it wonderful? Video games, the only thing that lets you buy your own grandma. I hope it's the only thing. And again, on clicked, we will basically just copy all this. So let's put it here, and you want to just switch those variables. So you are not going to use cookies, you are going to use cookies, you are not going to use oven price, you will use granny price. So let's connect it here, and granny price let's set to 50, and then set it to +2. So it will add 2 to auto cooker. Always, you can of course create here variable and set it to how much it will add, etc, etc, and make sure to switch all the instances of these variables. So again here granny price, and again here granny price. Because we are using variables, it's quite dynamic here, and you don't have to worry about that much. Just making sure that you are using correct variables. All right, let's see if that works. And if it does, we are pretty much done. Well, I am done. Hopefully you will do some more stuff with that game. And now when I am talking about it, I have a Discord channel where you can share your game if you finish it and let us all know what you did with it, etc, etc. It's all link for the Discord in the description. Alright, let's try to earn some money. Can I use multi-click? Let's switch it to free. Oh, no, it sometimes works. You know what, I got a mouse with multi-click, so I'm gonna cheat a bit. Alright, buy a granny, and wonderful, it adds 2 per second, look at that. Alright, that's about it. I hope that you learned something. It's one of the simplest games that you can make, but 2D games can be a bit tricky in Unreal Engine. So if you want project files for this game, it's on my Patreon. By I believe any tier you will get these project files for all the tutorials I ever made. And on higher tier you get much more bonuses. So if you are interested, feel free to check it out, and huge thank you to everyone who is on Patreon. I have also an Instagram where I share daily what projects I'm working on, so you can check that thing as well. And that's about it. As I said, I hope you learned something, and see you around. Surf Fancy out.